is going on, guys? It's Toby here, and we can finally start Whipple Supercharged solely. So I have the cooling barbs right here. These were the missing parts that I needed to get from Whipple Superchargers. We'll pop them in right here, fill up the coolant tank, and get this thing freaking started, finally. And then we'll also set up the port injection, but that'll be for the later parts of the video. Boys, this is literally the last part we have to do here. So insert the barbs like this, and then you put a bracket. So we'll just get it lined up. And then basically when you thread this, it pushes that O-ring and seats it, and then you're all set with the coolant. So just like on this side, pretty much same thing. Then the literal last thing we have to do here for the, this is the LT4 intake. We were missing a barb, but I went to AutoZone and I got lucky and I found one. It's a 3/8, and we're just gonna slide it in here and clamp over it. And then we can put our vacuum for the catch can right here. So that'll clip right on. I'm sweating my butt off, but we are finishing up here. This is 1 gallon of Dexos approved coolant. You know, this is the same thing that you get from the factory. And you fill it up until it hits that minimum line, and then we'll burp the system in just a second. But 50% of this, so this is 1 gallon, and then we'll do 1 gallon of distilled water. This man woke up at 7 p.m. I thought, it's broken! Oh my god, it didn't work!
Something's squirting in there.
That's the air cooler pump. So we just did a dry prime, not actually starting the car. So now that everything's pressurized, we can take the cap off, and then we're gonna have to keep filling it up. So it's gonna be like around 2 gallons, like I said earlier. I already have about half a gallon in there. So turn off, whatever.
Use your hands, big boy.
Oh my god, guys.
Just dump the whole thing in there and take it over.
So now we're ready for the first start. We bled the cooling system, and hopefully everything goes as planned. We'll see right now.
Boys, like it up, like it up. Oh,
G, you ready for the first start? Come on, come on.
Come on.
Like it up, come on. Oh. Hey, let's go.
No, let's go.
She's Whipple Supercharged. There we go. Yes, sir. Just making sure that all the wire harnesses are rubbing. What's my oil price?
Hey, I got it back. 35.
Normal. Getting a head start on this port injection setup because John is officially a night owl with his full-time job. I don't think you ever told like YouTube that you have a full-time job now.
I do. Sucks.
So anyways, we're gonna get the ECU pinned up for port injection. Basically, this ensures that I have adequate fueling for my setup, and I'm pretty sure you can bring this to like 900 wheel horsepower. That's what they were saying, but we'll see once we get on the dyno. And basically, it also starts spraying with these injectors on the rails. That's why I sent off the intake runners to K-Tech to set them up for port injection. So yeah. So we popped out number 39 as instructed to do so. Now we're taking the yellow wire and we're pinning that in.
No, that's because the other one was broken.
Open it.
Listen. Ready? Boom. That was a click.
It's done?
Yeah, done.
Been 2 times here. If you want the specifics to it, I'll include the tutorial because it's not going to be a tutorial video. It'd be way too much. But now we're doing the second connector. So that's the second one that goes into the ECU. And I think we're pinning one more time on that one and then one more on the third one, and we should be done with pinning the ECU here. These 3 wires are what came out of the stock ECU harness, and we had to put it into this little 3-way connector, but guess what? It's kind of broken. So the locking mechanism on it completely broke, and that's because we tried to shove the wires in there not really knowing what we were doing, so we broke the connector locking mechanism. So we're gonna have to pick up a spare part of these tomorrow, and then I can throw it in and pretty much finish it up. What we did, the pinning of the ECU was the most difficult part by far, and then the rest is just like a power and ground, and then you plug into something else. So it's super simple.
I'm sorry, Toby, for breaking the connector.
Nah, it's okay. It's whatever. Just go get a replacement tomorrow. I made another big whoopsie in buying AN fittings for my custom port injections. So these are my K-Tech rails that I sent off a long time ago. You all saw that in a video. And then I was supposed to buy AN fittings to make my lines, right? Well, I bought a whole bunch of 8 AN, and this is 6 AN. So we're gonna have to go to American Motorsports here in Orlando to see if they have some AN fittings or adapters to make this work. I cannot believe I bought the wrong size. That is perfect now. So big shout out to American Motorsports. They're literally the only shop in Orlando that had AN fittings. They had like 1,000 AN fittings on the back wall, and they were super helpful with getting me right. So now we have the right AN size that's going to connect to all the rest of my 8 AN fittings. Now that we're back at John's house, I'm going to show you guys exactly how we make these AN lines. So right now I'm working on a 90-degree to go to my rail, which is this thing right here. I showed it earlier. So we need a 90-degree fitting to fit onto this so that we can run the lines a certain way. So how exactly do you do it? Well, you have your braided hose right here. This is 8 AN. This is also an 8 AN fitting, and it needs to fit right here. So we need to tape it up with some electrical tape to ensure that when we cut this hose, it doesn't fray, and we'll do that in just a second. So as I said, we're gonna take a whole bunch of electrical tape and wrap this up. So I'm gonna give it about 8 to 12 wraps. We need some really thick electrical tape on there so that when we cut it, it doesn't fray this braided line. If the line is frayed, you can't fit it on the fitting. The fitting is very, very tight. Now we're gonna take our magnificent snippers right here, and we are going to cut this. It's not gonna go all the way through, but it is gonna give us a guide hole to use the Dremel on. So just need to line it up, and then we will... As I said, this isn't gonna cut all the way through it. Now we need to use a Dremel because it gives you a nice and clean cut without any frays. We just have a guide hole. So I'm only wearing the welding shield because there's a lot of metal shards that come flying out of here. Right there is exactly why I use the Dremel, because it gives you that cleanest cut possible after using the garden snippers. It ensures that you don't have that much fraying. And if you do have any fraying, guess what? The tape caught it, so it's kind of clutch. Then after you get it all cut up, this might be the most difficult part. So you're gonna take the end that you cut and put it into the fitting that doesn't have the smaller size. And you wanna twist counterclockwise once you get it in. So you just keep going until you get it. If you can't fit it, guess what? Cut it again because you have too much fraying. So I hope that I can actually fit it. This one's being a little bit stubborn, but once I get it, I'm just gonna twist counterclockwise and it'll seat up in here. Now we can lock it in the vise for the next step. Now I wanna note that this is not necessary to have a vise. You can do this if you have another person holding the other side with a wrench, but I don't. So the vise is gonna make my life a lot easier. So just lock it down. Like I said earlier, you just place this in here and start it. Like start the thread with your hands. Once you can't do it anymore, obviously you're gonna pick up a wrench, and I cannot speak today, but if you guys wanna check out these plates, John literally just released them, cloudsting.com. He also has some awesome merch on there. I had to order it myself. And now we take our wrench and we lock it down using the vise to secure it. You have a done deal, it'll sit up flush exactly like that. So perfect. Don't get pressed or don't get worrisome over the fact that some of the fitting got scraped off. It doesn't mean anything. I mean, if you want it aesthetically pleasing, you can use an AN wrench where that won't happen. We're finally putting together all the parts or all those lines I made. So basically we have a feed line here that goes to my stock direct injection. That'll click on right there with a quick connect. Then we have another line after going through a T going to this fuel rail, and then that'll go all the way to this side. And it's kind of confusing. So let's just like try and summarize this. This comes off the factory feed line and to the rail on this side, it plugs in. We have a fitting, it's underneath the cooling hoses. It's gonna run to the back side here, which is going into a T fitting, as you all can see right here. And then from the T fitting, we have 3 connections or 2 other connections. So you're gonna have one that comes here to your other rail, which is right here. And then the last one is gonna go to your stock or factory feed line. Now, a lot of people do it different ways, but that's how I'm gonna do it, and it should work as long as it doesn't leak, which we'll check for leaks too. This rail does not wanna go in, so either it's machined differently than the other side and doesn't really line up like the other side, or something ain't right here, fellas, but it is a pain. Crawled in here to see if I could put some downwards pressure on it. Maybe it'll seat the rail properly, but nope. We also just got my brand new connector in there, so we've got the 2 wires. The third one needs to come in from here. Oh, that's gonna be a difficult angle. I had to drop the freaking valve cover on this side to get the screws lined up, but it's finally in after, I don't know, how long would you say? 7 hours of struggling?
Something like that.
Yeah, nice. What a waste of time. Injection isn't completely set up, and I guess we'll do that in a different video because my tuner has to set up the file, or basically read my stock file and manipulate it and then connect to the controller for the port injection. Very long story, but yeah, I think we're gonna conclude this video. After I go to the gas station, I wanna show you all what this thing looks like in the pure light, and we're gonna see if everything goes well with the Maiden Voyage. This is the first time it's being driven with the Whipple Supercharger, not just sitting in the garage on jack stands. Looks like so far everything is looking good on the log, so I just wanna make sure that I'm not knocking during like normal cruising, just to make sure that it doesn't lean out, and then I'll just drive home and get the port injection set up, and we'll go to the dyno, I think this week. He said Monday or Tuesday, something like that, so yeah, I should be all good. I'm just going on this Maiden Voyage, you know, to test drive everything, make sure everything is reliable. It's like the Maiden Voyage was very successful. I made it to the gas station, and I just looked over the log. It looks pretty good, you know. No knock, which is the only thing I care about. I don't want any detonation. I know the fueling's off, like the short-term and long-term fuel trims, but again, as long as I can cruise home, I don't care. So that is the objective, to get home and then get the port injection and get on the freaking dyno so you guys can see this thing make some power. But let's see what this car looks like in the actual light. I guess now we can finally show the final result. She added this in for me. How nice of him. And then let's walk around to the front. So this thing looks so mean. Half wrap, half powder coated Whipple. Sheesh boys, this thing is gonna rip on the freaking dyno. Let's make some real power. And I'm just gonna walk to this angle so you guys can see what it looks like with white calipers. So on that note, if you guys enjoyed this video, please remember to comment, like, and subscribe. I'll pick it up when we go on the dyno with this bad boy and make some real power.